welcome to this edition of Meet America. We are going to be discussing the horrible specter of horse slaughter in this country and the cruelty, the way they're killed, tortured, your companion animals, some of them, many of them stolen, sent to auction where the kill buyers buy them. Many people aren't aware that their horses, when they go to auction, are going to be sent to slaughter. They think some nice person's going to take them. Look at the infinite sadness in this horse's face. It knows. These horses know. And they can smell the blood and the terror and the betrayal. And it's indescribable, the diabolical cruelty that some people will allow their animals to go through. And today we have with us on the phone a Dr. Lester Friedlander. He was the former chief USDA meat inspector, a very courageous man who for 10 years was the top of his trade and would inspect meat in the beef industry, to make sure that it was safe for human consumption and that they were humanely killed. And because he was so astute in his job, he was fired. And so he'll tell you that story. But he trained many USDA meat inspectors how to inspect meat to make sure that the animal was correctly killed. And indeed, a very, very courageous man. So, but first we're going to show you this little clip in case any of you recognize your horse. And this is Meet America. I'm Annie Griffin, your host, and I want to thank you so much for watching. What's particularly tragic about these horses is they rode us through history on their backs. They probably are man's greatest friends, more than the dog, more than any other animal. And they built this nation with us. And in fact, they rode human beings through all our phases of civilization. And now they have been betrayed in the most diabolical way. And it shows what kind of human beings we have become. The great father of mathematics, Pythagoras, that lived 2,500 years ago, stated that as long as human beings ate suffering animals, they would become brute-like in nature and very unspiritual and unable to control the wars, the famine, the disease that would overtake them. And indeed, his prophecy has come true. And so we approach probably the darkest hour in our civilization. But also there is a light at the end of the tunnel as our young people are stepping forward and becoming vegans and vegetarians. And even President Clinton now is speaking out because it is the vegan diet that has saved his life. At this point, I'd like to introduce to you on the phone Dr. Lester Friedlander. I want to thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Lester Friedlander.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I would, why don't you tell us about the atrocity of horse slaughter and the dangers of the meat?
Okay. Well, first of all, we shut down the last 3 horse slaughter operations in the United States in 2007. One was located there in Illinois. The other 2 were located in Texas, Kaufman, Texas, outside of Dallas, and also Fort Worth, Texas. The problem with the horse slaughter at the time, and USDA never did anything about it, was the violation of the Humane Slaughter Act. The horses, typically when they got into the knock box, they were using a captive bolt, okay, to destroy the brain. But because of the horses, and it was kind of hard to restrain them, it's been found out through several animal rights organizations that they found the heads of horses after slaughter that had several holes in the brain or in the skull. And according to the Humane Slaughter Act, it should only be 1 hole found in the skull to destroy the brain. So in other words, the horses were suffering at the time, and that's a violation of the Humane Slaughter Act. Now the horses here in the United States are being shipped to Canada and Mexico to be shipped to the foreign markets over in Europe and Japan.
And of course, the same thing is going on in Canada, isn't it?
It's probably even worse in Canada and Mexico. In Mexico, I don't even think they use the captive bolt. They use a procedure called pithing, where they take a knife and they try to sever the spinal cord right behind the brain, the base of the brain. And that's not too accurate when you do that because the horses are moving all the time.
Absolutely. And also, can you talk to us about the aspects of the health aspects? I'm particularly interested in if you could explain in the cattle industry, I understand that they have, by law, the USDA has to test for adrenaline and cortisol levels. Is that true?
Yes, but unfortunately, USDA doesn't follow those procedures. Usually, they only test for antibiotics. But when it came to the horse slaughter issue, okay, there's been high residues found, especially over in Europe by the European Union veterinarians, okay, of residues of phenylbutazone, butazolidin, which actually is used for lameness in horses. Okay, it's a painkiller. And also clenbuterol, which is a beta agonist, like a steroid. And those 2 drugs were never approved on animals for human consumption. And especially when you talk about bute, that is also a known carcinogen.
And I understand that the EU has regulations that state that any horse that's ever had bute cannot be used for human consumption. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so
it's a known carcinogen, and it's never been approved by Food and Drug Administration on food animals.
right. And yet,
It so happens that USDA has very poor record keeping and health certificates that go along with horses. And there's been residues found in the horse meat that's over in Europe.
right. I've heard that as well, and it seems to me that they don't seem to really care. They've purposely, in my opinion, made these laws with these loopholes that a person can take their horse to auction, and most horses in this country have had bute, and then the kill buyers just fill out the papers that as far as they know, this horse that they bought at the auction never had bute. And the EU accepts that certificate. And so, you know, that seems to be one of the reasons why they can get away with doing this.
Right. Well, it so happens that there is a lot of falsification of those documents being done by the kill buyers. The health certificates are falsified, and so is the other paperwork that goes with these horses when they go to slaughter facilities.
Now, if you could explain to the public what is so dangerous about adrenal and cortisol levels in cattle that the USDA is mandated to test for those levels and take out that particular cow or cattle if it has too high a levels?
Well, basically, from my experience, that USDA doesn't test for those levels, okay? They probably should be testing for the levels, but mostly USDA tests for antibiotics, especially in cattle or other food animals.
Oh, but they don't need to test by law for adrenaline or cortisol levels in improper kills?
As far as I know, they don't, and they never have.
Uh-huh. Well, then, if the public, if you're wondering why you're so crazy with stress, just imagine your own stress level, and then you're eating meat in which an animal has been improperly killed, and so all that adrenaline and cortisol is coursing through the blood of that animal into your body, and so you're getting this, and that's just a natural assumption. Wouldn't that be, Dr. Lester Friedlander? Has there been any research or tests done on this?
As far as I know, if there has been any research, it's been minimal to the point. But like I said, according to USDA, FSIS, they really don't test for it, and they probably should be testing for it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, why don't you explain to us how you started your career and that you've been with the USDA for, what, you were with the USDA for 10 years and then you became the chief USDA inspector. And what did you find during that time, and how did you finally lose your job because of your courageous ability to speak out and try to, you know, make the meat safe for the American public?
Well, it all started that I was in charge of one of the largest hamburger producing plants in the country, okay? Plus, my plant also did 85% culled dairy cows. And at the time, back in 1985 when I first started with USDA, I was doing the most non-ambulatory down cows in the country. I was doing anywhere between 20 and 25 down cows a day. And at the time that mad cow disease was noticed there in Great Britain, I actually got the first tapes of what those cows look like from USDA because my plant was dealing with down cows. I was also the first veterinarian in the country working for USDA or even private veterinarians. I was taking out cow brains on my own to send to the lab because I highly suspected of mad cow disease. Back in 1987-88, I was doing that. And then also came to a point that I was sending these brains out, but I was contacted by Dr. Pat McCaskey, who was the head pathologist for USDA, and I told Dr. McCaskey I think I was getting close because of the down cows I was taking the brains out of, And then Dr. McCaskey said he had a big meeting in Washington, D.C., and they asked Dr. McCaskey if anybody would find mad cow disease in this country. And this was back in 1990. Dr. McCaskey said if anybody would ever find mad cow disease in the United States, it would be Dr. Friedlander in Pennsylvania. Now, when Dr. McCaskey told me that, I said, you know, Pat, I think I'm getting really close because, like I said, I was dealing with down cows all the time. Then Dr. McCaskey told me, he says, Lexi, if you ever find mad cow disease, do not tell anybody.
Oh, my.
And if you tell anybody, tell me first. And I said to Dr. McCaskey, I said, don't you think people will want to know if we have mad cow disease in this country? And he said, we just discussed that in Washington, D.C., and economically, we have to go back to the 1800s because we have to repopulate all these cows. And after he told me not to say anything if I ever found it, then I knew that the program was useless. That USDA didn't want to find mad cow disease in this country. But now, up to the present time, there's really been 4 positives found.
Well, the meat industry is probably the most powerful lobbying industry and controls Washington, so I'm not shocked or surprised because the people mean nothing and it's all about money, isn't it?
That's what it is. The bottom line is economics. And the owner of my plant, Ken Taylor, complained to USDA because I had the highest condemnation rate in the country. I was condemned between 20 and 25 cows a day, and an average of $400,000 to $500,000 cow. He was losing $10,000 to $15,000 a day, and I was there for 7.5 years, so he was losing millions of dollars. And then he asked my supervisor in Washington, D.C., to actually transfer me to another plant.
Oh my God!
Then I was replaced by a veterinarian from a chicken plant.
Oh my God! So, how did you become the chief of the USDA meat inspection program?
Well, I was only the chief at this plant. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
But I started in 1985. In 1987, though, they started a new program of training new veterinarians coming into USDA. Mm-hmm. And with only 2 years experience, I got the award as veterinary trainer of the whole country with only 2 years experience. And then I found the cattle disease never documented before and had it published in the Journal of Veterinary Pathology. And then I also lectured at Ames, Iowa, and at Texas A&M University at the USDA training site under the disease I found that was never documented before. But then, after I was transferred from that hamburger plant, I was transferred to a veal plant, and I was only there for like a week, and I saw a very disturbing fact that the veal calves were gaining 50 to 60 pounds more, even though they were on formula fed. And what happened was, I ended up being interviewed on ABC Primetime Live, and I found clenbuterol, which is a beta-agonist, was never approved on food animals, in residues of the veal calves, and it ended up with federal indictments in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. After that happened, the USDA called me into Washington, D.C. and told me I had to quit because I was causing too many problems for them.
Oh, my God. So, folks, if you don't believe in the criminal corruption, the fetid, rotted government that is killing you, if you can't believe this brave man's testimony, you stood up in front of Congress, didn't you, at one point, testifying about the cruelty of horse slaughter, didn't you, Dr. Lester Friedlander?
Yeah, I was quoted telling you about the cruelty in the horse slaughter operation. And come to think of it, I'm writing a letter to the senator here in Pennsylvania, Bob Casey, who's on the Senate Agriculture Committee, that the FSIS administrator right now, Alfred Almanzo, actually was the regional director in Dallas, Texas, at the time these horse plants were going on, and actually he should be fired because he never enforced the Humane Slaughter Act, and thousands of horses were suffering under his control.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why they've got him in there, you see. They want people that are going to be quiet, and it doesn't matter how the animals are treated, what suffering they go through, and it doesn't matter if people die and get sick of mad cow or E. coli, as long as the money comes flowing in. And
that's what seems to be the problem with the conflict of interest with USDA and with the industry. Okay, mm-hmm. I was hired to protect the consumer, not to protect the industry, and it so happened that I did such a good job protecting the consumer, I lost my job.
Yes. Now, this is, you're writing a book, aren't you, about this?
Yeah, it's called The Hamburger Files.
Okay. And so you're going to expose the meat industry for what it is, hopefully.
Yes.
And hopefully you're going to be able to live, you know, they're not going to kill you before that book comes out. Because
well, I plan on living a long life, okay? And I don't have time to look behind my back to see who's after me.
Right.
I mean, everything's the truth about this book, and a lot of people know that my conscience is clear what I did as a USDA veterinarian.
Yes, absolutely. What an incredible, brave man. I mean, how many people do we have out there, incredible Americans with courage to stand up and tell the truth about what's going on in the meat industry? And why don't you tell us about the Jones disease now, and what it's causing, and Crohn's disease, and what Crohn's disease is, and what the symptoms are, and where one of the places it's coming from.
Okay, there's a disease in dairy cows called Johne's disease, okay? And Johne's disease is a bacterial infection caused by a bacteria called MAP, M-A-P. It's Mycobacterium avian paratuberculosis. It's in the same family as tuberculosis, okay? When the dairy farmer sees that his cows are losing weight, the milk production is decreasing, and they have diarrhea, he contacts his farm veterinarian. The farm veterinarian comes over, examines the herd, and takes fecal samples. When he puts the fecal samples on the microscope, he sees that the bacteria, Mycobacterium avian paratuberculosis, is present. Then they contact the state veterinarian. He takes the fecal sample also and confirms that the herd is positive for Johne's disease. Now, they tell the farmer, the federal government and the state say to the farmer, you cannot sell this herd to another farm because you're just spreading the disease. But what you can do is send these cows to slaughter. They usually come on a VS-127 paperwork from veterinary services, restricted movement of animals just for slaughter, okay? Now, the problem is, though, when these positive Johne's cows go to slaughter, okay, they're probably traveling 15 to 20 hours on a tractor-trailer, so they're defecating all over the tractor-trailer. According to USDA regulations, okay, after the cows are unloaded from the tractor-trailer, the driver of the tractor-trailer has to take the tractor-trailer to a designated area on the plant site and clean out the tractor-trailer. Unfortunately, what happens, and USDA and the industry do not do anything about it, is when a Johne's herd comes in, okay, instead of cleaning out the tractor-trailer at a designated area with a secured fence around it, okay, they tell the driver to clean it out where the rest of the manure is from the other tractor-trailers. So they're mixing up that contaminated feces with the other feces of the other cattle. And what happens is when the local farmers talk to the plant about using that manure to spread on their fields for fertilization, they unknowingly are spreading the disease. The bacteria that's found is found in the soil for 4 to 5 years. Okay, so this problem is never going to get cured. And according to recent research, 65 to 70% of the dairy herd in this country is affected with Johne's disease.
Oh,
now, what happens also is that they took milk and pasteurized it from positive Johne's cows. After pasteurization, the microbiologist checked under the microscope, and MAP, Mycobacterium avian paratuberculosis, was still present in the pasteurized milk. So in other words, people got Crohn's disease through the pasteurized milk and the milk byproducts.
And and what is the USDA doing about that?
USDA is doing nothing about it. I actually contacted the microbiologist who did the research for USDA at Ames, Iowa, and I talked to them, and they said that in order for USDA to stop the slaughter of these diseased cows for human consumption, an organization like CDC in Atlanta, Georgia, has to make a statement that Johne's disease is a zoonotic disease. In other words, it's an animal disease that causes disease in humans. I talked to the veterinarians there at CDC in Atlanta, Georgia, and talked to them about the connection with Yoni disease and Crohn's disease in humans, okay? They said they would research it further and get back to me. It's been now over 6 weeks, and nobody's got back to me.
Yeah, that's the whole.
That's typical with the government.
Yeah, well, you see, that's it. They never get back to you. None of them. And that's how the government is now. Never gets back to you unless you've got lots of money. And you can give them lots of money, like $500,000, then they're suddenly interested. So the corruption is so deep and on every level that you, as listeners, you have no choice, no protection, and the karma of you allowing these animals to suffer so is now coming back to you in the form of a disease, because karma happens. That's what it cause and effect. And there is justice in the universe as far as that goes, because that is what you're causing. You're causing a terrible, terrible suffering. And so now it's coming back to you. Now, why don't you describe what Crohn's disease is, because many people might not know they have it.
Well, Crohn's disease, is a bacterial infection caused by MAP, Mycobacterium avium paratuberculosis, in the intestines. Now, what happens is it's a very debilitating and painful disease. So when you go to the doctor diagnoses you with Crohn's disease, he puts you on steroids for the inflammation in the lower intestines. But it so happens it does nothing for the bacteria, and after several weeks or months, it inflames again, he puts you on steroids. But after a while, then he sends you to a surgeon, and the surgeon has to go in there and cut out a foot and a half of the infected intestines that are inflamed, and then he resects it. But you only have so many feet of intestines, and even to this very day, there's people that actually carry a bag for the rest of their lives because they ran out of intestines.
Oh my God. And you never hear about this. You hear about Crohn's disease, but you don't hear that it's coming from the dairy cattle, right?
Right, but the medical doctors, when they diagnose that you have Crohn's disease, they right away tell the patients to stay away from dairy and milk byproducts. So they know that it's caused by dairy, the dairy and the milk industry. But
they don't sort of put the link together, do they? They just sort of say,
the link is there. I'm saying, they even tell the patients to stay away from dairy and milk byproducts. Okay, but it's a $1 billion industry because there's no cure for Yoni disease in cattle, and there's no cure for Crohn's disease in humans. So it's a $1 billion industry. The pharmaceutical companies are spending, it costs millions of dollars just for the steroids to put these people on, and then when you talk about the surgery, so whether it be human medicine or veterinary medicine, it's a $1 billion industry.
My gosh! And so they're just letting these, 65% of the cattle, you say, in California have this disease?
Well, 65% of the dairy herd in the United States has the disease. But according to Dr. Michael Collins, who's an expert on Yoni disease, he's a microbiologist at the University of Wisconsin Veterinary School, he says with the larger dairy farms, we're talking about the 300, 400, 500 herd,
right,
and they're located whether in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, New York, California, 85% of those herds have Yoni disease.
And then that manure is going into our water supply, right?
Oh, for sure. When it rains, or heavy rains, sure, that gets washed right into the water supply.
And that bacteria lives, so anyone who's living near that, then if they're growing their vegetables, can it be uptaken in plants?
Oh yeah, for sure, because like I said, it's present in the soil for 4 to 5 years, this bacteria.
Oh my God, so even if you're a vegetarian, you can get this disease.
Well, there's a good possibility that could happen.
Yeah, because on many of these facilities, they actually process nuts with milk and cheese and all that. So, we're all going to get contaminated. And the USDA does nothing, huh?
No, they do nothing about this situation. But I'm going to try to bring it to the forefront here. I've talked to several animal rights organizations and animal rights lawyers, they're in the process now petitioning USDA to stop the slaughter of young these cows for human consumption.
Right. So there's, but right now you're saying these dairy cows that have this disease are being eaten by people.
Yes, right to the present time.
Boy, you know, folks, are you seeing how deep the corruption is? How rotten?
But this isn't the only problem I have with USDA. The other problem is also with foie gras, liver pate. The animal rights organizations petition USDA because it's cruelty to the ducks the way they produce foie gras or liver pate.
Right.
But also, I told the animal rights lawyers and animal rights organizations they should petition USDA also because USDA stamps foie gras or liver pate. USDA inspected and passed for wholesomeness. But I've talked to several dietitians in Canada and the United States, and liver pate or foie gras is 85% fat. USDA stamps are USDA inspected and passed for wholesomeness. And according to the professionals, the dietitians, and medical doctors, there is nothing wholesome about a product that's 85% fat. So in other words, I told the animal rights organizations and lawyers to petition USDA that it's adulterated and misbranded product. They should stop stamping it USDA inspected and passed for wholesomeness. Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to change the subject just a little bit. I totally agree on this pâté de foie gras issue. It's just beyond any imagining what's going on with that. But going back to this cortisol, adrenaline level in meat, in your opinion, do you feel that they are at dangerous levels, both in cattle and horses, to the point the USDA should be testing for those high levels and make sure that that meat is taken out of the food chain?
Yes. I definitely believe that USDA should be doing something about it, and Congress should force USDA to do the testing for these levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any information on why it's so dangerous?
Well, because of the fact that these levels, are levels that are detrimental to humans, who are eating products with these levels in them, and research has shown that it causes illnesses in humans, with such high levels. So USDA should do more and do more testing. But the problem, I think, with USDA is that their budget is restricted, They can't test for everything.
Yeah.
But I think they should get the money somehow and do the testing for this to protect the human consumer.
Well, they probably won't, because it doesn't seem that they're very interested in protecting anything. They're just interested in selling the meat, whatever, you know.
Well, that's come I feel that USDA should get out of the business of meat and poultry inspection. They have no right in it because of the conflict of interest. It should be a separate consumer agency, and veterinarians like myself, when we make the judgment that the meat, should be condemned or sent to pet food, we don't need other people, getting on our case, and interfering with the professional decisions that we make. Unfortunately, now for USDA FSIS, you don't have veterinarians in there like you did in the past that are actually in charge of FSIS. Alfred Amonto is only a food inspector, and he's an administrator. I mean, what does he know? So you have veterinarians who have over 8 to 10 years educational experience, that have to actually report to a food inspector. I mean, so the morale is really very low now in USDA FSIS.
Absolutely, and everyone's probably frightened of losing their jobs. Because if they stop the line and try to stop an improper kill. And let me inform you, I mean, as far as I know, I've seen video footage of these animals being processed alive. Can you describe that horror to us a little bit, please?
Well, yes. And the problem is that, it comes down basically this, okay? A lot of these slaughter plants now, okay, were actually designed by Dr. Temple Grandin from Colorado State University.
Right.
Okay? Dr. Grandin is well known worldwide. But then again, okay, she works for the industry and also for USDA.
Right.
But a lot of people don't realize she is a professional animal killer. She designs slaughter plants to kill animals.
Right.
Okay? She is part of the problem because when the industry says, Dr. Grandin, we want to kill 300 cows an hour, she has to design the plant to do that. And when it comes to the animals, when they go in the knockbox, okay, and they're using the captive boat, the lines are just going too fast that the animals are suffering. So Dr. Grandin is actually, you know, in a sense, is responsible for that.
Yes, right. She's going along with the program.
Well, yeah, because she gets paid, okay, and the industry tells her, Dr. Grandin, we want to slaughter 300 cows an hour. She has to design it to that without even considering the fate of the animals.
Right.
So she's a major problem with a lot of these plants.
Absolutely. I agree. You know, that's what happens. You get caught up in you know, trying to keep everyone happy, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're asked to do the impossible, which is to design a plant that's going to kill 300 at a time, and you know, you're going to lose your job if you don't. And so that a lot of people don't have the courage that you have to step forward and say, look, this is how it is. And you're a dying breed, you know. Would you say that it's gotten a lot worse in your 10 years experience as far as the USDA getting more and more corrupt and turning away, and how much mad cow there may actually be in the food chain here?
Well, to tell you the truth, okay, first of all, okay, antemortem inspection, that's when the animals are alive, is the most important step in meat inspection, okay?
Uh-huh.
All right? It so happens that when these regulations were made after the book The Jungle was written back in the 1920s, okay, the regulations back then said that when you do meat inspection, it's one by one. As compared to poultry, okay, turkey, that's by flock inspection. Okay? But when you deal with the meat animals, okay, the inspection is one by one. It so happens back then, in the 30s and 40s, okay, when the veterinarian has to do his antemortem inspection when the animals are alive, he first checks the animals at rest to see if there's any problems, okay? Then, number two, he asks the pensman there at the plant to move the animals from one pen to another. He stands behind the gate, and he sees the animals all on the left side, okay? Then they get turned around, and he sees all the animals on the right side. So he can spot out any kind of central nervous system disease. Because of the fact, on post-mortem, when the animals are dead, you don't see those signs. Like, for example, like rabies, listeriosis, circulating disease, or even mad cow disease. You don't see the droopy ears, the facial paralysis, the gait is off, okay? You don't see that. But it so happened that when the plants got larger, okay, USDA allowed the plants to make the alleyway 10 to 12 feet wide. So now when they do antemortem, okay, the cows are brought from one pen to another. They're about 7 or 8 abreast. If I'm behind the fence, okay, I see the first cow. The second, third, fourth, and the rest of the cows I barely see because the cow's normal gait, their head is lower, okay? So I don't see anything. So there's the possibility we're missing thousands of cows that show central nervous system because we don't see it on antemortem, and USDA allows these plants to do that.
Yeah, that's right. So it's gotten a lot worse than it was. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure it has, because a lot of the small slaughter plants are out of business, and the larger companies like Cargill, Tyson's, okay, Smithfield, you know, they're killing so many, and they dictate to USDA, you know, what they want to do, and USDA goes along with it.
How much mad cow do you think's in this country?
Well, let me put it to you this way, okay? We slaughter, I think, anywhere between 35 and 40 million a year, okay? And and we only found 4 so far, okay? I mean, you take a country, Canada, which is only slaughtered maybe 10 million, okay? They found over a dozen already, mad cows. So there's actually thousands of cows that we're missing every day that probably show symptoms of mad cow disease.
In other words, they've only tested 4 in this country. Is that what you're saying?
No, they only found 4 cows so far.
Okay, so they're not really looking, are they? Like
we're positive for mad cow disease.
Now, I hear in Japan, every cow that is slaughtered is tested for mad cow. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and yet they won't allow that test, which is fairly simple, as my understanding, inexpensive. They won't allow it here because they're afraid that it would cause a massive panic and the meat industry would die, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, you see, folks, that's what's going on. And if you want to go and eat your mad cow and then come down with Alzheimer's, because that is linked, can you tell us, do you know anything about that? I've heard from researchers in England that the brain on autopsy of an Alzheimer's person looks identical to a mad cow. Do you know anything about that?
Yes. Well, what happens is that the prions, abnormal protein, attack the brain, okay? And they cause plaques in the brain. And after a while, it gradually leaves the brain, and then all of a sudden the brain just collapses, okay? The same thing happens in mad cow disease, and the same thing happens in Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD disease, which is the human form, okay? But there's other diseases in animals also that are prion diseases. Another one also is chronic wasting disease, which is found in the deer and the elk, okay, in about, I think about 15 different states now. That's also a prion disease that attacks the brain.
Can you tell us about prions, what they are? And aren't they in...
Prions are abnormal protein. They're very small, okay, and what they do is that they attack the central nervous system, especially the brain.
And I hear they're indestructible. You can't, there's not enough heat that can ever destroy them. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you can cook your meat until it's black and there's nothing left, and you still will have the prions on the grill, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so when you go to a restaurant then, and there's a mad cow, a piece of meat there, and you're grilling it on the grill, you can get it that way.
Well, there's a good possibility. I mean, there's limited research done on this, but because the prion, like I said, there's no temperature that will kill the prion. I mean, there's all kind of possibilities that could happen.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. This is so frightening. It's just beyond belief. And so the USDA has no plans to test for mad cow, right? And so out of thousands and thousands of cattle, there could be 1,000. We don't know how much mad cow there is in this country then. We have no idea.
No, we don't, because when USDA first did the testing, like I said, we slaughtered between 35 and 40 million, something like that, cattle a year in this country. When they first did the testing back here 15 years ago, I think they only tested about 250,000 or something like that, or 400,000. But now, to the present time, the amount that they are testing is like 0.001% or something like that. It's very small. So it's a waste of taxpayers' money, if you ask me.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm sure that they're going to be testing a cow that looks healthy as opposed to a cow that doesn't.
Well, that's what happened when they did the testing, okay? Some consumer groups checked on the testing, and the testing actually was done mostly on younger animals where you don't find mad cow disease.
Yes.
In other words, a lot of the testing was done on animals that are only 2 to 2.5, 3 years old, okay? And typically, mad cow disease you'll find in older dairy cows, cows that are anywhere from the age of like 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yes, absolutely. And what are the symptoms in animals and humans?
Excuse me?
What are the symptoms in a mad cow animal?
Well, in mad cow disease, okay, like I said, it's a central nervous system disease, okay? So in other words, if you really get spotted out, okay, the cow would be sort of stumbling, okay? The cow would be off feed. The cow would also show some kind of maybe facial paralysis, droopy ears, okay? And then finally in the last stages, the cow goes down. It's non-ambulatory. And once it goes down, it's a down cow, and then eventually it just dies.
Okay, all right. And can horses get it too?
I'm not too sure if horses can get it, but there's always that possibility, I guess.
Well, you know, humans can get it. If humans can get it, I don't see why, you know, horses can't get it. And it comes eventually. What?
There was different species of animals that have it, but USDA conveniently calls it different diseases. Okay, in other words, transmissible spongiform encephalopathy, TSC, is also found in mink. Okay, it's also been found in mountain lions and tigers in the zoos. It's been found in felines and cats. Okay, but instead of saying, and so everybody understands it, saying that it's mad mink disease, it's mad tiger disease, mad lion disease, you know, so you have an idea that it's all the same family. They use different terminology so the public doesn't understand that it's all around us.
It's all the same disease. And you know what's so interesting? I think this is bigger than AIDS, because they're now estimating that an enormous size of the population is going to come down with Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is linked with mad cow. And I have a friend of mine whose brother came down with what they thought was Alzheimer's. They finally diagnosed it as mad cow. And he was getting ready to talk. And he got a phone call that said that if he talked, his whole family would be killed. So that's how lethal it is.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. And also, in the medical profession, okay, I don't know how many cases were actually misdiagnosed, because when the person had dementia, okay, and then the person died, it was just typical for the medical doctor to sign the death certificate as dementia or Alzheimer's disease. But actually, they never took the brain out to check to see if there's any plaques in it or if they're prions, okay? So I think a lot of those cases could have been Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But they'll keep that quiet, you know. They'll keep that quiet, won't they? They're keeping everything else quiet. Well, I want to thank you so much. Your book is coming out, you hope, in a year or so, The Hamburger Files. And I hope everyone will read it and get educated, because your government isn't protecting you. Your government is a criminally run government. You no longer have your rights. You no longer have your freedom of speech. And you are really being totally put in the dark. And they think you're stupid, and they don't care about you, and all they care about is your money. So what you've got to do, and your job is, folks, is to get educated, and don't give your money to industries that are killing you and your children. And if you do, yes.
And also, I just want to interject one other thing about pink slime. Okay, pink slime is now used in the school lunch program. But pink slime, all it is connective tissue and fat. The industry calls it fine texture beef, okay? But it's only connective tissue and fat. How nutritional can that be in the federal school lunch program? USDA approved it, okay, because a lot of school districts are in a budget crunch. So USDA told the school districts, okay, you can pay a prime price for hamburger meat, or you can save yourself 10 to 15 cents a pound by using the pink slime to feed our kids in the school lunch program.
See? And so that pink, now describe pink slime. I hear it. What is it?
All it is connective tissue and fat. And it's been used in the last 10 years or so by some of the fast food restaurants, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, as a filler. And then now all of a sudden, they want to use it, like I said, in the school lunch program to feed our kids. But there's nothing nutritional about it. It's connected tissue and fat. That's all it is, basically.
And I hear also they're scraping it off the floors.
Well, that does happen, okay? Even though the American Meat Institute made that statement, okay, that, the pig slime doesn't come off the floor, because there's no line speed in the processing after the slaughter, okay, the lines go so fast that meat constantly flows on the floor, and that's what the USDA approved these plants to have wash sinks every 10, 15 feet. So when product does fall on the floor, the company can take it and put it underneath the sink and wash it off and still use it.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Well, Dr. Lester Friedlander, I want to thank you so much for your courage and you're just a fantastic person, an American, a true American. And I look forward to reading your book, and we'll have you on again.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Good night.
All right, good night.
Now we're going to watch a little interview done on CNN and with Bill Clinton and how the vegan diet has saved his life. And thank you so much for watching.
What kind of diet are you on?
The short answer is I went on essentially a plant-based diet. I live on beans, legumes, vegetables, fruit. I drink a protein supplement every morning. No dairy. I drink almond milk mixed in with fruit and a protein powder, so I get the protein for the day when I start the day out. And it changed my whole metabolism, and I lost 24 pounds, and I got back to basically what I weighed in high school. But I did it for a different reason. I wanted to lose a little weight, but I never dreamed this would happen. I did it because after I had this stent put in, I realized that even though it happens quite often that after you have bypasses, you lose the veins because they're thinner and weaker than arteries. The truth is that it clogged up, which means that the cholesterol was still causing buildup in my vein that was part of my bypass. And thank God I could take the stents. I don't want it to happen again. So I did all this research, and I saw that 82% of the people since 1986 who have gone on a plant-based, no dairy, no meat of any kind, no chicken, turkey. I eat very little fish. Once in a while I'll have a little fish, not often. If you can do it, 82% of the people who've done that have begun to heal themselves. Their arterial blockage cleans up. The calcium deposit around their heart breaks up. This movement has been led by a doctor named Caldwell Esselstyn at the Cleveland Clinic, Dean Ornish, whom you know, out in California, the doctors Campbell, father and son, who wrote the China study, and a handful of others. But we now have 25 years of evidence. And so I thought, well, since I need to lose a little weight for Chelsea's wedding, I'll become part of this experiment. I'll see if I can be one of those that can have a self-clearing mechanism. We'll see.
I hope you're healthy for many years and get to see grandchildren for many years.
Me too. Come. That's really the big deal. You know, Hillary and I, we're happy. We love our son-in-law and we admire him, and we'd like to be around. If there's grandkids, we want to be there to do our part.
Mr. President, good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you're doing.
And better. You look fantastic. You look...
Thank you.
I'm vegan as well, and I know that you're eating plant-based diet, which is, do you just feel much better?
Oh, yeah. I think, you know, I would say this, particularly if you're older when you start this, first, it's just a good thing to do. It'll be healthier for you, and you put less stress on your cardiovascular system. But if you're older and you've had heart problems like I did, you can go vegan and still get in trouble.
Yeah, yes.
If you eat too much white, like processed carbs.
Right.
You know, it's really, really important because carbs convert to sugar in your body. The main thing is to keep the sugar levels down.
Well, you look fantastic, and there's no way you're eating a lot of sugar because you've lost. How much weight have you lost?
This is the third week in a row where I will weigh less than I did the day I finished high school.
Wow.
Until 2007, thousands of American horses were slaughtered here in the U.S. and shipped overseas for human consumption. States finally outlawed that cruelty. But today, about 100,000 of our horses are still brutally slaughtered across borders in Mexico and Canada. These horses are not old and injured. Almost all of them are in good condition, able to lead long, productive lives. The journey across a border can mean confinement in a trailer for thousands of miles, without rest and no access to food or water. Undercover investigations in Canadian and Mexican slaughterhouses revealed terrible cruelty, horses forced to suffer painful deaths. Now Congress is considering the American Horse Slaughter Prevention Act, which would stop the flow of American horses across our borders for good. Please call your congressperson and ask them to support this bill. With your help, we can put an end to this cruelty and protect our treasured companions.
So please contact your Congress members now at that number on the screen. That's the Congressional Switchboard. If you don't know who your Congress or your senator is, you can ask and just give your zip code and they will put you right through to your representative's office. The horses have no voice but your own. And remember that the horses are the messengers of God in the Bible. So for those of you who are religious, in Revelations, the 4 horses of the apocalypse foretell of famine, disease, and war, taking the human race out. And if we don't mend our ways. So these incredible friends of ours, if you're just going to sit there on your couch and chew your meat and not do anything, then don't ask the Great Spirit to do anything for you. Because if you don't do things good in this world, your own soul cuts you off, and bad things happen. And bad things happen to all of us anyway, that's for sure. And bad things are happening to these innocent, beautiful horses that have done nothing wrong, that don't pollute, that just eat grass and just want to live their lives and are slaves to the human race. These great, noble beings, on some level, they need you. And maybe there's no God out there, but you can be God. And you can do good things. And you can stop this madness of eating meat that is killing all of us. So on that note, I leave you with that thought. Remember that all the greatest thinkers on this planet, Leonardo da Vinci, Pythagoras, Einstein, Gandhi, all the great leaders and thinkers were vegans. It'll uplift your mind to become a vegetarian and your health. Do something good today. Call your Congress and ask them to sponsor the Horse Slaughter Prevention Act. I'm Annie Griffin. Thank you so much for watching. See us this time next week. Good night.